focus on China's role in the context of the Ukraine conflict, exploring how its geopolitical ambitions, alliances, and strategic interests are influencing the situation. Here's an outline of the 6 degrees of Ukraine as they relate to China. 1. Geopolitical interests. China's strategic alignment. Russia-China relationship. China has maintained a strong political and economic relationship with Russia, which has been a key factor in the Ukraine conflict. China's alignment with Russia, especially in terms of economic ties, energy, and military cooperation, has allowed Russia to sustain itself despite sanctions from the West. Balance of power in Eastern Europe. While China is directly involved in the conflict in Ukraine, its support for Russia, even if more subtle, plays a role in the global balance of power. China's view is that the US and NATO's expansion in Eastern Europe represents a challenge to its own sphere of influence, particularly as it looks to extend its global power. 2. Economic influence. China's role as a global trade partner. Energy imports and investments. China is a major consumer of Russian energy, especially natural gas and oil. In the context of the Ukraine conflict, Russia's need for an alternative to Western markets for its energy exports has driven it closer to China. Beijing has played a role in ensuring Russia's economy is supported by energy deals, even as Western nations impose sanctions on Moscow. Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, also indirectly connects to the Ukraine situation. Ukraine is an important country for the BRI, providing strategic routes for Chinese trade and influence across Europe. Even though the conflict has disrupted the region, China continues to focus on securing economic partnerships with countries in Eastern Europe as part of its broader strategy. 3. Diplomatic strategy, neutral position, and calls for peace. Official neutrality. Officially, China has taken a neutral stance on the war, calling for peace and dialogue. However, China has been hesitant to fully condemn Russia's actions, positioning itself as a broker for peace in the region. This is consistent with China's broader foreign policy of non-interference in the internal affairs of sovereign nations. Strategic messaging. By adopting a neutral tone, China keeps itself in a position to avoid alienating both Russia and the West. It aims to appear as a responsible global power, advocating for diplomacy and peace talks, while also maintaining its economic and strategic ties to Russia. 4. Military considerations, supporting Russia without direct involvement. Indirect support through arms and technology. While China is not directly supplying Russia with arms, it has been speculated that China could be indirectly helping Russia through dual-use technologies, cyber capabilities, or military logistics. China's technological and industrial capabilities could bolster Russia's military efforts, even if not in the form of direct combat support. Cybersecurity and intelligence sharing. China has long been a global leader in cyber warfare capabilities, and it's possible that some form of assistance or intelligence sharing has taken place between China and Russia. This could be an area of strategic cooperation that remains mostly out of public view. 5. The impact on global supply chains, economic ripple effects. Supply chain shifts. China's economic relations with Ukraine have been affected by the war, especially in areas like agriculture. Ukraine is a major exporter of grain. While China imports substantial amounts of Ukrainian wheat, corn, and sunflower oil, the war has disrupted these supply lines. China has been forced to seek alternative sources or increase imports from other regions. Influence on global commodities. As a key player in global trade, China's role in the global supply chain means that disruptions in Ukraine affect China's economy. It might lead China to deepen trade relations with countries outside of Europe, diversifying its trade routes and markets to mitigate risks. 6. Global strategic posturing, strengthening alliances with non-Western powers. China's growing influence in the global South. The Ukraine conflict and the West's focus on sanctioning Russia have led some nations, particularly in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, to strengthen ties with China. By positioning itself as a neutral party advocating for peace, China enhances its appeal to non-Western countries. This, in turn, strengthens its geopolitical footprint in the global South. Challenging U.S. hegemony. The US and NATO's involvement in Ukraine have provided China with an opportunity to challenge what it sees as American global dominance. By siding with Russia without directly antagonizing the West, China solidifies its position as a counterbalance to Western influence. Additionally, China's calls for peace can be seen as an indirect challenge to US interventionism. Conclusion. While China is not directly involved in the conflict in Ukraine, its role cannot be ignored. Through its economic relationship with Russia, diplomatic neutrality, and growing global influence, China has shaped the situation in subtle but significant ways. By supporting Russia indirectly, expanding its global trade routes, and leveraging its geopolitical alliances, China is positioning itself as a key player in global power dynamics, one that has a vested interest in the outcome of the Ukraine conflict, even if its actions are not overt. Let me know if you want to explore more specific aspects of China's involvement or its broader strategic interests.